Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of NCBA's Coffee Break. I'm your host, Nathan Willner, and today we have a very special guest, Michael Stillman, President of the National Creditors Bar Association. So, welcome, Michael.
Well, thanks, Nathan. Hello to you, and appreciate you having me on today.
Yeah, we're happy to have you, and let's dive right in. Reflecting on your tenure as president, what do you believe are NCBA's most significant accomplishments over the past year?
Well, I would love to take responsibility for anything and everything that's happened, but my tenure just started in October, so it really hasn't been that long. So we'll look back to the last year where I was also obviously president-elect for part of that, and now president. But I think probably the biggest thing to me has been our pivot to spending a lot of time and effort through your efforts at the state level. I think that's the biggest thing because that's where we've seen the most movement as far as regulatory and legislative engagement. So our state level pivot has been great. Also added to that, still not missing out on our opportunity from a federal standpoint. What we've done as far as advancing HR 7947, which will absolutely, if we can get some movement on that, reinforce attorney independence, which I think would be fantastic. I think we've done some really good things. I think overall, NCBA is doing a better job of engaging with our membership. I think we're seeing more communication. We're providing more benefit through CLE programs and the expansion of that. And then also our conferences, our last conference was great. We had record numbers. We have our executive experience coming up, and the initial numbers are looking great. We're ahead of the people that registered last year. So I think overall, there's a lot of opportunity out there. There's a lot of excitement in the industry and a lot of opportunity for us to continue to give our members value.
I mean, that's exciting to hear from your perspective about this growth. But I just want to, for a second, talk about the significance of the House Resolution Bill 7947, the Restoring Court Authority Over Litigation Act. How has that positioned NCBA within the larger legal community?
Look, I think it's an opportunity for us to really put ourselves out there. So for those that don't know, this bill was jointly authored and is jointly sponsored by the American Bar Association. Clearly, the American Bar Association has a little more weight than NCBA, a few more members than us. And they also tend to perhaps have relationships with some different sides of the house that we might normally have. So I think that gives us a lot of credibility in bringing this to the table. And obviously, the political climate that we're in today opens up some great opportunity for us to move this bill along. I think that if we are able to continue to push this bill forward and get some bipartisan support that we're hoping to get and get it out there, then we have a real opportunity to make a difference. And that difference will mean a lot to us in the industry because, I don't want to be in a position where I have some unfair advantage over another group, i.e. collection agencies. I just want to be able, when I'm a lawyer and my firm's practicing law, for us to practice law and be lawyers.
Yeah. And again, our members are maybe just the current example of attorneys that are regulated by, non-court agencies, but the American Bar Association is concerned because it can affect the practice of law in a general sense. So it's fantastic that NCBA is focusing on protecting the independence of the practice. Going back to what you mentioned before about the rise in sponsor interest in the NCBA, what do you think is driving this increased interest, and how does NCBA's growing visibly benefit its members?
So taking your latter question first, right? I think that, look, when I became president, one of the things that was on my agenda was making sure that we were known as the experts, right? If there's an issue that comes up, I want NCBA to be the one to get the first call to respond to it if it's in our lane. If it involves credit and collections from a legal perspective, then NCBA should be the expert. And if we can present and portray that to the greater mass of people, not just our industry, but lawyers in general and just the greater public, then I think it does a lot for us, our members, and us as an organization. As far as getting the bill sponsored, I was one of, I don't know, there might have been 20 people or so. I know you were there to go to participate in the Hill Day last year and work the Hill to try to get some sponsors for this bill. And I think that the biggest thing about this bill is, it shouldn't be bipartisan. It's not really controversial. I mean, we're not trying, all we want to do is we want to be subject to the rules and guidelines of what our Supreme Courts within our specific jurisdictions say that we are responsible for as lawyers. I don't think that's being unrealistic. I don't think it's asking too much. Why should we be governed by two masters and at times when that can contradict each other?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I think many people would argue that there's a lot more than two masters that are have their hands in the way um, lawyers in this space represent their clients, and it's something the clients as well. They when they hire an attorney or a law firm, they expect a certain type of representation without interference from regulatory agencies. So the great point. Talking about the conferences, and I could see when you talk about the NCBA conferences, a certain glow, a certain excitement, and we've seen you know uh, attendance steadily increasing at our Connect conferences. What do you think is behind that growth, and what do members find most valuable about coming to our large Connect conferences?
So I think first off, when we pivoted a few years ago to reduce our primary conference down to one, clearly that made it more enticing for people to attend that one as opposed to choosing. Some people may have chosen one or the other. Now, those people are going to choose the one that's there for them, right? And I think that the conference itself lends our opportunity not only for us to meet with our clients, which is huge, but also that opportunity to meet with vendors, to meet with our sponsors who are so important to our organizations, our exhibitors. I think there's a lot of movement within our organization for us to be as attorneys in this practice to have more efficient practices. And technology is key, right? And the big thing right now, AI, it's a buzzword everywhere. Certainly in our industry, it's huge. Omni-channel communication. There's if a firm is not presently emailing and or texting, they're certainly talking about it and they're looking for new vendors, and there are new vendors coming into that space daily. And where are those vendors going to go if they want to try to capture the business of attorneys and firms in our industry, but for our conferences?
No, I mean that makes perfect sense. So moving on to some of the advocacy work we're doing and member benefits, how would you describe NCBA's expanded state advocacy efforts, and what impact has this had on existing state creditors bar associations?
So let me say this, right? And I don't think this is going to be a surprise to anyone, but you can't get anything done without money. And so, I don't want to use this as a plug for people to give to NCBA's advocacy efforts, whether it be the PAC or our advocacy support fund. But the reality is, without that, and yes, I'm the chair of those two efforts. But without those efforts, without that money, we can't do anything. We're not going to be able to be that expert. We're not going to be able to be involved. We're not going to be able to give support at a state level or a federal level or any level. So I think that it is so important for us, for our members to be involved, not only from participating financially, but also we talked about Hill Day, showing up to Hill Day, being involved from a state level in your local state creditors bar association, because there's a lot of movement right now. There has been, going back the last couple of years, to what transpired in Arizona, and now is just happened in Michigan, and it's going on. You and I talked earlier, right, about Maryland and Virginia. There's something in Minnesota. So it's definitely been taken to the state, and we have to be there. And our pivoting you to be more involved in that and supporting those state creditor bar associations has had, I think, a huge impact on NCBA and the value that we delivered to our members.
Yeah, good points made. You mentioned that members are seeing real value from CLE programs and other offerings. Can you provide examples of how these programs are specifically benefiting creditors' rights attorneys?
Yeah, I think, look, I don't know how many states require continuing ed, but obviously a lot of them do. And I know some of the states that my firm practices in, we do have requirements. And we as a firm used to have to go out and pay to get those CLE opportunities out there. Now we can utilize NCBA, which is great. So from a firm management perspective, from my perspective, it's great. It saves us money, but also the available CLE options, we're not necessarily germane to what we do. They didn't specifically look at our industry because we are a niche industry and there's just not that many people who are out there looking to do what we do. So the fact that NCBA is jumping in and providing CLE opportunity to give us regulatory updates and special training within our core areas, it's great. I mean, it's way more engaging to sit through a CLE session that is something that you are actually interested in or that you deal with on a daily basis than falling asleep because you have to go somewhere and you're listening to something that you are never going to be involved with.
Yeah, 100%. So let's talk about industry challenges and growth. You touched on the challenges of consolidation among firms due to M&A activity. How is NCBA responding to this trend, and what advice do you have for firms navigating these changes?
Yeah, so I think it's natural. I when I first started my practice, I primarily did commercial work, and there was a ton of contraction in that industry where firms were getting out of it, and it still exists. There's still debt out there to collect. And in fact, in our realm, in the consumer world, there is more debt that was collected in 2024 than ever before. I know my firm saw increased placements dramatically for a variety of different reasons. And we're going to continue to have opportunity. Yes, there are firms that are getting out of it because perhaps there's not a rush out the door of law schools for young associates to necessarily go into the collection world. It may not be the sexiest line of work, but you know what? It's a great opportunity for someone to get involved, and there's a lot of opportunity there for us to continue. So I think that NCBA's efforts to make sure that we're there to support not only the bigger firms, but the smaller firms. And clearly, we're going to have some bigger firms. Some smaller firms are going to get out of the industry. They're going to be taken over by bigger firms. But there's always going to be a niche available for anybody who has the ability to go out there and look for business. There is business today that on a regular basis, my firm just can't effectively handle because it's too small, it's too complicated, it's too manual. We operate in an environment where if we don't have a certain kind of business coming in the door, we just don't address it well. And I think that there's opportunity for others that are smaller that can do that. So I think that opportunity is always going to be there. And I think as an association, we have to continue at our conferences to provide value not only in education, but also in the latest and greatest technology, the vendors that are coming in, because every one of us, big or small, are going to need to embrace technology to continue to run cost-effective practices and to continue to make money in this business.
So, with more attorneys retiring and the cost of business, going up, what role should NCBA play to help firms stay competitive, in this evolving legal landscape?
I think really a summary of some of the things we talked about, right? Certainly from an advocacy standpoint, that's so important because whether you're big or small, you're going to be subject to whatever legislation's coming down the pike, whether it's federal or state. So that's probably the biggest piece as an organization we can do. But once again, at our conferences, making sure that our members have access to the latest and greatest technology, making sure that we have access to education. That's CLE. I mean, it saves you money. Anywhere you can save money is a great thing. and just being an advocate for our industry. Because if you're in this industry, big or small, you need an advocate. You need someone out there, advocating for what we do.
Absolutely. So I know another program that NCBA is something that's near and dear to your heart, and it's great to see that registrations for the 2025 Executive Experience Conference are already exceeding previous years. What makes this event so popular, and what can attendees look forward to when attending an executive experience?
So I'll tell you, me personally, I love the executive experience. I went to the first one, which was in the middle of COVID. We weren't sure, right, if anyone was going to show up, and it ended up having, a nice attendance. And then we've had two since then, and now we're on our way to Napa. And over and above, being in Napa, which we'll get to, I think the opportunity for me personally to go to a conference and not have to put on my marketing hat. I don't have to meet with, every 10 minutes with a client. I mean, I look at my schedule when I was at our last conference in October, our Connect conference, and I literally every 30 minutes I had a conference with a meeting with a client. So that is my primary objective when I go to those clients, to touch base with my client, to those conferences, touch base with my clients. And secondarily is to meet with the vendors and to learn other stuff. So when I go to executive experience and I have the opportunity to sit down with my peers, talk to them about what they're doing, which vendors they're using, what technology they're embracing, to learn from some of those vendors that come to that conference at a much smaller, intimate level. It's invaluable. It's casual, it's relaxed, but it's an opportunity really for me to take away things that I don't get that opportunity at the Connect conferences.
So, what are you personally most excited about in advance of the 2025 executive experience? Are there any sessions or moments you're particularly looking forward to?
The wine tasting. So anyone who knows me, and for those that don't, might know that collecting wine is kind of a little bit of a hobby, perhaps a passion or an obsession of mine. So I absolutely love Napa. And I do believe that in part, while this conference is amazing, and it was amazing in Scottsdale, it was amazing in Ojai, it was amazing in Frisco, Napa has a certain allure and a certain draw that I think is certainly helping with our attendance, because Napa Valley, if you haven't been there, is just really special. The wine, the food, it's a great atmosphere. So over and above that, I think there's these, for me, running my firm and having the opportunity to meet with other leaders of firms and have that engagement, and engaging with my peers is just invaluable. So I'm really excited to be having that opportunity. I'm registered. Someone else, my partner, my office is coming as well, and she's bringing her spouse, and I'm bringing my wife with me. And in addition to having this great opportunity to network with my peers and learn some great leadership things, and the roundtables, by the way, which I should mention, are amazing at the executive experience. It's just open engagement, and hearing what other people are doing is invaluable. But being able to have my wife there with me, being able to socialize on top of the business aspect, which is different than the Connect conference, because I wouldn't even have my wife there with me because there's just no time. So it's a really special opportunity for me.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it serves that need of balancing, both personal, professional, and being able to really, talk honestly among your peers. So that's really exciting. So, how important is member feedback, and how does it shape the direction of the organization?
Yeah, look, I remember years ago, and this was before I was involved on the board. I remember a friend of mine saying, should I join it? It was NARCA at the time. Should I join NARCA? I said, well, are you going to get involved? No. And this was a long time ago, and I don't think we did as much back then in terms of engaging with our members. And I said, well, do you really need another magazine? And I think we're beyond. I wouldn't answer that the same way today, because I think we are offering so much more today than we offered 10 years ago. But having said that, we can't give people what they want if we don't know what they want, right? So, what I want out of my year of being president of NCBA is to leave NCBA stronger and better than when I got there, right? At the end of the day, that's all I want. So, how are we going to do that? By getting member engagement, by finding out what they want. What do they want from from an association? What do they want to see that we're not doing today? What do they want to see different about our conferences that we're having? What can we do to encourage them to bring associates or other people from their organizations to our conferences or provide virtual opportunities? So I think that the only way we're going to figure that out is by communication, by member engagement. And I encourage anyone who's watching this to reach out to me. I'm happy to give my email address if they don't have it. It's mstillman@stillmanlaw.com. Feel free to contact me with any ideas because there is no stupid idea. So always happy to discuss it to see what we can do to be better as an organization.
Yeah, no, definitely you get out of something as much as you put into it. So that's great advice. So we're getting close to the end of our cup of coffee, so to speak. It's been a pretty big cup today. But finally, as the legal landscape continues to evolve, how does NCBA plan to balance the challenges facing the industry with opportunities for growth and innovation?
I think we continue to do what we're doing, right? We continue to provide value to our members. Education, huge. Technology is probably the biggest thing, and making sure that our members know about it, have the opportunity to see it, have the opportunity to learn about it, because these are ways that we're going to change the landscape of our practices and be able to do more with less, be more efficient, be more profitable, and to be able to serve our clients better. So I think that we have to continue to provide compliance opportunities for our membership, and the strategic partnerships that we talk about with our sponsors and our vendors. Technology is huge. Making sure that we are advocating for our industry and for our members, and making sure that we are looked at as the experts.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for joining us today, Michael. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you and learning more about your vision for NCBA. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks again for having me, Nathan. I enjoyed this, and have a great day.
You too. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to NCBA's Coffee Break. Until next time, take care, everyone.